Alright, what is up? Today we're going to talk about the difference between the sample size and the batch. So I believe that the sample size was more important for having a better sonic quality. I don't have a good way of defining what sounds good, so this is really just my opinion of what sounds better. I will provide the audio and let you decide for yourself. But we also see that there's at least one metric. The loss does look to be a little bit lower. So if you have to choose between sample size and batch size, today I propose that sample size is the option that you would want to increase for the best results. So I did two runs on two songs, one run on three songs. The runs that were done on two songs, I'd had the first run with a sample size of 8192 by 16 and a batch size of 1. The second run, I had a sample size of 8192 times 8 and the batch size of 2. And that ends up being the same amount of information, because if you cut this in half and then increase the batch size by 2, it's going to train on two samples at the same time instead of one sample that's twice as long. Okay, so let's look at these results. First of all, this is the first run. Again, this is the one that was a longer sample of one batch. And the loss looks like this. Not really anything to mention here. Even an average would be kind of a waste of everyone's time. Here's the second run, which has a batch size of 2. And we can see that there are more peaks here. It does look to be performing worse overall. The peaks are higher and the troughs are also higher. And then the third one, this is on 3 songs using the sample size of 8192 by 16. And this had the lowest loss. So I think it also sounded the best. I found that with one song, it was able to really hone in and get a good reproduction of the sound. Same with the individual audio files, seems to produce more coherent results. Okay, so here's the results for the run that I did using just one song, but the sample size was 8192 by 8 and the batch size was also 1. This was on the 3060, so I wasn't able to increase the sample size. And you can see the loss is worse than the other runs that had the longer sample size. Kind of, actually. This one, it looked like it was getting a lot better. I did end up running this maybe a little bit longer, not much longer, but it did look like it was about to converge onto something pretty good. And the results sound pretty good. So that's why I'm using less audio files. I found when I tried with just one song, I was getting really good results. So I bumped it up to 2 songs, still pretty good results. It didn't end up converging towards the end here. And when we listen to these, you'll see that it doesn't seem to do any kind of blending. It seems to just go piecemeal and try and recreate the easiest portion of sound that it can. And I think a lot of times the easiest, or the reconstruction that has a lower loss than last time, is going to end up being a muted, inaudible frequency. Okay, so this first run was done on the 3060 with a sample size of 8192 by 8 and a batch size of 1. Also, this was the checkpoint that I used for all subsequent trainings. Here is the loss. You can see it's pretty high, but it does seem to be decreasing, which we don't see on the other runs. Only the first 2 seem to show a decreasing loss over time. And both of these were just on one song. And it sounds like this. Alright, so that was one song with the small sample size and the batch size of 1. All other models from here on out are trained on that. So now let's compare the run with the longer sample size versus the run with the higher batch size. Here is the higher sample size run. Alright, so that was the high sample size. You can hear that at some points it kind of gets really quiet and muted. I think that's because the lower loss might end up being minimal sound, or maybe a super low frequency. It's trained on these songs here, so I think when it samples something in this area, as well as something in this area, it's gonna come back with a muted sound. So now let's listen to the higher batch size. Batch size of 2, sample size half of the previous, which is 8192 by 16. So this is 8192 by 8. And it sounds like this. Okay, so which one sounds better? That's up to you to decide. But they are clearly different results. With the longer sample size, you get longer output files, twice as long in fact. I'd noticed that the transitions between when it's training on one song versus the other are maybe a little bit more abrupt with the higher sample size. But I think that the samples, the pieces, there are better sounding pieces with the higher sample size than with the higher batch size. The higher batch size, maybe as an entire piece, sounds possibly slightly more coherent. I'm not really sure, but I find myself coming back to the higher sample size and enjoying it more, whatever that means. What I haven't done now is work with the accumulated batches. I'm not sure what the effect that will have, so I will definitely play around with accumulated batches, and I will play around with song number. The single song seemed to be the one that was able to actually reduce its loss over time. Okay, so this one also had a decrease in loss here, so I'll need to come up with a reason for why that is. But those are the results for today. There's always more to come. I am working on a web GUI for Harmonai, so you can just click some buttons. Someone in the comments said that they would like that, but it might take a couple days. It might take a week, but it'll be out. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, everybody. Please comment and subscribe. Happy to talk. Happy for you to talk to me. All about coding. Peace.
Yeah.